Hey there, and welcome back to another exciting adventure in makeup. I am Bug Catcher Kate, and I'm so glad that you're able to join me. For this video, I'm going to be doing a tutorial for a full coverage face foundation, concealer, powder, in preparation to do another video where I'm doing my eyeshadow. I wanted to create a separate tutorial video that I could link to in past and future videos that will show how to do some basics of doing a full face coverage, to link to those videos so I don't have to eat up quite as much time in the video going over the products that I used or the techniques that I used for the coverage on my face. So hopefully this video will be a useful tool that I can, like I said, link in my other videos. So again, thank you for joining me, and without further ado, we shall get started. I'm going to start with NYX Bear With Me Sunscreen Daily Moisturizing Primer with Cannabis Sativa Seed Oil, broad spectrum, SPF 30. I have talked about this product a little bit in a couple of my videos. I have not been very good about using face moisturizers or a sunscreen in general in my life, and I want to make sure that I take a little bit better care of my skin, especially the skin on my face, as the skin on your face does get the most sun exposure. You know, even if you're just like running to your car or, you know, maybe dropping something off at the mailbox, you are exposing the skin on your face to the sun. And a lot of people don't really realize how much damage it can do long term, because, you know, your whole life getting that much exposure without any protection can cause premature wrinkling and can cause your skin to dull and not be as moisturized. So we're going to start with that primer and moisturizer just to make sure that I do have enough moisture in my face. I did use it this morning as well because I knew that I was going to be doing a video. And then we're going to be switching to the L'Oreal Paris Magic Skin Beautifier BB Cream in Anti-Redness. I have been trying this out for coverage on my acne and little blemishes. And I actually am going to be using a brush to apply some concealer later on. I'm going to use that brush to start off this product as well. It's a nice minty green color. Green is the complementary color to red. It's opposite on the color wheel. So they, when they're mixed together, they kind of gray out or tend to brown. So I'm just very lightly applying this, like I said, with this brush. And I think, from what I have found, the trick to using this product is to good amount on that area that you need to cover, and then just do a really good job of blending out the edges, and it does a pretty solid job of covering those up. Now it is a BB cream, so it is not it's nothing crazy in full coverage like some other concealers or primers. And I am going to be using a concealer in a bit to go under my eyes, but like I said, I'm just starting with this anti-redness here. All right, and I think I have gotten most of those. So I'm gonna stick with the same brush. Oop, there's one. And I'm just gonna very lightly blend out the edges of those. Like I said, I wanna make sure that there is some product on the top. I don't wanna pick up too much of it. This one's kind of sore. So just lightly dabbing. I'm kind of making these little stippling motions so it doesn't pick up too much product, and then on the edge blending out and away, kind of in a circle. Now I don't want this to dry without it getting the edges blended, so I'm going to kind of quickly go through and touch some of these areas up, because I have found that if it dries before you've blended it out, the consistency of the product underneath, like a powder or other foundation, is just, it doesn't sit very well. So I do want to get that blended out. cat hair already so early in the video. All right, let's see, blend that out. Again, like I said, it's not 100% coverage, but it is what we're going to use for the start here, because again, it is the light green tint here that is blending to a natural tone that is really going to help offset that redness. All right, and you can tell that I already saw that I applied just a little bit more product. That was to touch up these areas that need just a little bit more of that green tint to them. My skin is naturally somewhat uneven, and I have relatively big pores, and I do have blemishes. So I've got a lot going on that I want to try to cover up. Again, this is going to be a full face foundation, full coverage look. So I'm going to try to cover things up very nicely so as to show you all what steps I would go through. Now you can see there's a little bit of a strange color difference here. Even though this adapts to your skin tone, it's not perfect. So I'm gonna just very lightly blend out that edge a little better. This is a freckle or a little mole. I don't really like to cover him up. He's pretty cute. All right, that is much better. I'm gonna get just a tiny bit more of this product there on the brush and just cover up these little darker kind of pitted areas on my cheek over here. Go back over and get this one again. Very tip of my nose. How rude. All right, and then I am going to switch over to my foundation. So I feel like I'm never quite sure what order to do all of these different products in, and I wanted to kind of check a couple different sources before I made a video about it. Most of the random Google search results said to do a moisturizer, then a primer. My moisturizing primer is all in one. Then to do a foundation unless you're using a color correcting concealer. So if you're using a color correcting concealer, do it before the foundation. Then do your foundation, then do a regular concealer if you're using a regular concealer. So, and then finish with powder. So I'm using all kind of like dual purpose products that are strange. So I'm going to attempt to do it in the correct order. And I think that it's going to work out really well. But I'm just going to be really careful to use the products sparingly as well. So we've already done the primer slash moisturizer and then the color correcting BB cream, which, does it say it's also a concealer? No. It's a BB cream, of course not. All right, so we're going to switch then to the Becca Zero No Pigment Virtual Foundation, which is such a neat product. I saw someone talking about it on Snapchat, which is so funny that I caved and bought a product, but it's really nice. It's in this frosted glass jar, but then the product itself is also frosted, this really nice clear whipped. It's just a really interesting texture. It doesn't really have a smell. If it does, it's like maybe almost a little bit tropical, like a little bit coconutty. But the point of this foundation is that because it is that frosted matte kind of color, I didn't want to say color, finish. It's like that frosted matte finish. It is going to help reduce the shine on my skin. And I do have pretty oily skin. So I'm just going to take my finger and very lightly just dip it into the pot there and then spread it across the areas that I know are oiliest. So that's typically my T-zone, which is this area that's the shape of a T on your face, which is across the brow and forehead and down onto the nose. And it's very hard to see the effect of this, especially considering I don't have like the best lighting set up. but it really does just blur the imperfections. It's kind of similar to using the healing brush in Photoshop, which is, I think, neat. So I am going to go ahead and put this on my cheeks as well, because like I said, I've got a little bit of larger pores there, and I do want to make sure that I have a product on top of the BB cream. Just very lightly put it all across the rest of my face. The areas that I concentrated on were, again, the T-zone where I get the most oil production, and then on the cheeks and areas where I've got the pores that are not ideal. All right, and that is so nice. It's very cooling, it's very refreshing. I'm going to wait to let this set a little bit. Dry isn't quite the right word, but because it's not gonna like make my face dry, but I do want to make sure that it sets, because the next thing that I'm going to be doing is a concealer. Ooh. All right, so I'm going to switch now to the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Multi-Use Concealer. And in my last video, I actually took off the sponge to use this on my eyelids for a primer, and it worked really well, and I was able to get the sponge back on no problem. I just squished it in there. It was a little bit messy, but there was quite a bit of product in the sponge, which is why that ended up happening. But it is a little spongy guy, so I'm going to make sure that there is some product back in there by twisting. You can see how much I've gone through and how much I've got left. And then I'm going to, again, go over those areas that I have some blemishes. And then also I want to make sure to line the area of my brow, because I'm going to want to fill those in when I do my full face. And then I am also going to want to go ahead and fill in my under eye circle area. So to do this, I'm drawing like a little triangle. There's not quite enough product in there. So I'm drawing this triangle. There it is. There we go. And it's going to look ridiculous for now, but we will blend it up in just a second. You can see it's not quite the right color for me. I need something that's a little less peachy. Most of that is due to the fact that I haven't been out much. You know, there's like a pandemic going on and it's winter, so haven't really been out as much as I normally would. This is super unflattering, but sometimes you gotta do it. And I will every now and then just do this really unflattering look and very lightly blend to make sure that I'm getting that crease between where my face ends and my neck starts. So I'm going to switch to a dense short brush. I usually use this one for blending my foundation or concealer out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just very lightly brush it everywhere that I have it. And I want to make sure that I'm, again, similar to the BB cream, just really lightly blending out from any areas that I'm trying to cover. So on the under eye area, I want to blend up towards the lower lid, out towards the cheek, and onto the nose, leaving the actual under eye area kind of for last, to very lightly blend in. On the T-zone, I just wanted a little bit of coverage, so I'm not as worried about how I blend out there. Do want to make sure this guy's blended. And these where the color match is like pretty gnarly. I just want to do some nice soft blending out. I am going to be going over all of this with a powder foundation as well, which is why figuring out the correct order to do these for a video was a little strange, because a powder and a foundation are typically very different things. But again, my skin is relatively oily, so I do like to use dry products whenever I can. So a powder foundation is exactly what I'm looking for. Gotta make sure that I buff out the chin here. So you can see that I've just really lightly kind of blended all of the concealer that I've used just to make sure that I don't get any like cakey areas. It's a little tacky. It feels nice though. Alright, so I gotta make sure I blend out this cheek as well. Alright. Alright, how does that look? I imagine there's probably still a line, but fear not, because next we will switch to the powder foundation. So this is the L'Oreal Paris 24-Hour Fresh Wear Infallible Foundation in a powder, which I happened to pick up on a whim. I was out of powder and I needed something, and I saw it there on the shelves, and I was like, yeah, that sounds neat and like a product I would use. And then one of my friends just recently informed me that it's like all the rage. Apparently it's big on TikTok. Who knew? All right, so there are a couple of options when applying this product. It comes with a spongy little applicator, or you can use a brush. A brush is typically going to make it a lighter coverage, not put as much of the product onto your face. So I'm actually going to go in with the sponge for this part. This is where I would do an all-over powder just to set everything that I've done so far and to cover up any of the remaining blemishes. And then I would do my eyeshadow and then come back with a brush and do a really light powder to make sure everything is set. So I'm going to use this and I'm just gonna swirl it on there and pick up the powder. And you can see it's very dense. And I've mentioned this in all of my videos, but it just smells really nice. I'm gonna start just by patting it on under the eyes. Again, my skin is a little bit tacky from the products I've just put on, so I want to use that to my advantage to make sure that this powder is really adhering well. And you can see how much that cuts the shine out. Look, I'll put some on my nose. Totally cuts the shine out of my forehead and off of my nose, which I am super happy about. All right, and this is the part that I want to start making sure that I'm blending on my on the edge of my jaw and on my neckline. I'm not really worried about having you know, like oil coverage. What I'm really concerned with is just making sure it's a really soft, easy transition so it doesn't look really awkward. You know, obviously my neck and my face aren't actually the same exact color because, again, my face gets more exposure to the sun naturally. And this is where I want to go ahead and go around my piercing here. Let's see. And then get some along this lower corner as well. I got a little bit on my nose ring. And then I want to line the edge of my lip, almost like a lip liner with that sponge, just to make sure that I have a really defined base for when I do put on a lip color. All right, and again, make sure it's blended out along the ear area too. Then I'm going to pick some up and just very lightly pat it onto the eyelids, because this is going to add a really nice base for doing the eyeshadow look that I'm going to be doing in the next video. Although I know in that video I'm going to be adding some concealer as well to help adhere the pigments. So I'm not going to do too much more on the lids right now. Typically I'll just do a little bit of powder or a little bit of a foundation or a primer just to make sure that the pigments do adhere really well. I keep picking up more like I need it, but it really is very full coverage. It's really nice. I really like the texture. Obviously it doesn't completely fill in the large pores, but that's not its job. So just gonna do a little bit more to make sure that I don't waste what I just picked up. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is actually a little bit scary because I haven't done it in a long time. I'm going to contour before doing my blush and my eyebrows because I consider my eyebrows and my blush to be part of doing the base. Certainly the blush. Is it? I don't know, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So to start the exciting process of contouring, I'm going to be using an ancient, truly ancient palette. This is the Sweet Dreams palette by Too Faced. On the back, it says the copyright is 2011. That's very old, but I love it. It's really gorgeous. It has all these really fun shadows. You can see I've completely gone through one of them, but they're not as pigmented as I really like, so I haven't used them that much. Usually I'll use them for an accent. I've used these lighter shades the most. But what we're really in here for is this bronzer called Chocolate Soleil. So I have a couple of different brushes here. This is my angled brush that I typically use to apply my blush. Did I say angled blush? I think I said brush. And I have a makeup eraser here that is a little bit damp, and I'm just going to run this across really quickly to pick up that blush because I am not going to be using this really nice kind of brick colored blush in my next video. I'm going to be using the pink actually from this Too Faced palette. So I want to get this cleaned off before I use this for the bronzer because I'm going to use this brush to contour. So you can see it's quite a bit cleaner. I took a lot of blush off there. I'm going to flip over. I made sure this side was damp so I could use this side to dry if I needed to, because I don't want to contour while my brush is damp, because if part of it is, let's say this section is more damp than this section, it's just going to make it very hard to blend. Alrighty, and I'm actually going to just pull this little drawer out here, and I'm going to start on the left with my cheek, do the cheek on my right, do a little bit of contouring on the forehead, and then some along the jaw as well. And then I think I grabbed a brush to do my nose as well. Yeah, I think I see one. All right, so the idea of contouring is that you're accenting the areas that the light hits naturally on your face and darkening the areas that, of course, where the shadows fall. So typically what people will do is they'll do, again, one just below the jaw here because that accentuates your cheekbones. It brings them up higher. I like to contour along the bottom of my jaw because it's a little bit flabby sometimes, especially when I'm making faces. So contouring can really help that. And then I have kind of a large forehead, so I will contour just a little bit into the hairline. So I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to gently sweep it along this Chocolate Soleil. Make sure you can see it. So I picked up quite a lot there, and I'm going to start just below where I would put my blush, right where that apple is, where that rosiest part is. And I'm gonna draw kind of a line up and out, and I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. This is the part that's hardest for me because I naturally have my head tilted to the left. I don't know why. It's just most comfortable for me. So trying to make them even is like really awkward, but you're gonna wanna look straight on and try to see where it ends and match it up. So this one ends right about the bottom of my nostril and right about the outer corner of my eye. So I wanna make sure that this ends at about the same spot. So again, just taking that and brushing it in a diagonal up and out. That one's much better blended. So we'll go ahead and blend this one out a little bit. And I will typically blend down more than up because I will usually set off the look with a blush or a highlighter or both. So I want to blend the crease, contour, I want to blend it down to accentuate where that higher area is. So again, I'm just picking up a little bit and layering it on and blending it down. It says real chocolate or real cocoa in it. It tastes really nice. It smells nice. All right, this line is just a tiny bit harsh. So I'm going to go in with the same brush that I used to blend the concealer and such, and just very lightly pat on there because the line just went on a little too harsh on that side. That's much better. So I'm going to pick more of that up, and then I'm going to contour along the hairline here. Just very lightly tapping that in. Again, this is to accentuate the other areas of the face. This will darken the edge, so it'll bring more attention to the center. Grab some more of that. Again, contour there. One thing I will say that you may want to avoid is right here on your temple. The more you fill that in, the more kind of sullen and sunken in your face will look. So when I'm doing a spooky look for Halloween or something really dramatic, I will darken that or put like a purple or something there because it changes the shape of my face very drastically. Not sure if that's the same for everyone, but I would say just be careful because filling this in really dark can really change the shape of your face. I want to make sure that I get some up in this part of my hairline. Again, I'm just picking up on the edge and using that to kind of tap on. I don't do a ton of contouring, so this is probably going to be mild compared to what others might do, but so I'm going to pick some more of that up, and then like I said, I like to contour along my jaw. So I'll start about here and just drag down into the underneath, under my chin, because that just helps darken that area. So if I smile funny or make a funny face, it keeps that area from looking really prominent and keeps it dark. And I'm just going to put a little bit more there and drag back down. And I will occasionally tilt up just to make sure that I'm blending it well. Because again, this can get a little iffy blending it in between the neck. So just gotta watch that. Pick up more product. Go in along the jaw and down. And again, I'm blending it down because I want to make sure that the space between these two is relatively defined, which I will again go back over with more powder to finish that up. All right, and then you can see that it's made this little bit of patchy darker area, so I'm just gonna blend that out. All right, get a little bit more on this upper area of my hairline. Do another sweep on this side. Now this time I'm using the full flat part of the brush. This is to get that smooth, smoky transition rather than when I was using the edge to really define that space. This is really to soften it. All right, and then I do have a brush that I grabbed. Normally I would want something a little bit more dense to use to contour around my nose, but I just don't have enough dense brushes, so I might actually need to pick one up. So you can see this has been used for yellow. I'm gonna pick up that same brown here. What's it called? I'm holding it upside down. It's called Chocolate Soleil. And I'm just very lightly going to, what you want to do with the nose is, the idea is that where you put that line is going to change the width of your nose. Most contouring works straight on as well, so that's important to think about. But so if I want my nose to look really skinny, I'll draw the line right here. But I don't really mind the actual shape of my nose, but I do want to make sure it's a little bit more defined. So I'm going to just very lightly brush on a line here. It's probably hard to see because of the lighting. There we go. And the thing with contouring, similarly to doing like a really bold look on your, wow, see how much different that is? Totally changed the shape of my nose. just like doing your eyeshadow, is you can build up the look. So don't get discouraged. Don't get too worried that it's, you know, not looking good, because it's always easier to add a little bit more than to take a little away. So you see on this part, it comes out a little bit. So I do actually want to go in and contour up a little bit, and that's because of where the line of my nose is. So I'm going to contour the edge of that up a little bit. So looking from the side, it doesn't look like I have a broken nose. All right, pick up a little more, do the same thing over here. And I'm not going to mess with this side as much because I do have the piercing. The piercing already draws quite a bit of attention to this side. So really I just wanted to make sure that the general profile is well defined on this. There we go. So we've got a nice little nose there, and then I'm gonna go underneath, because this is how you get that cute little button nose, by defining this shape around the edge of your nostrils. Again, if I had a pointier brush or a more dense little brush, oh, it smells so good. This would be a little bit better, but that is how I would do my basic contouring on my nose. I am just gonna fluff this out a little bit there. Use this to gently fluff out there. And then the last bit of contouring that I would actually do is I would very gently contour whatever the space is on my lip, because my lips are not super full. So I contour right there and a little bit on my chin. It's really hard to do the chin area because it can end up looking like you have, what are those? Oh, a soul patch. And I don't want a soul patch for this look. So I'm just going to move my piercing out of the way and go along the center there, just to darken it up a little bit, just to make my lips look a little bit fuller. I'm not going to do it. I'm tempted, but I'm not going to do it. All right, and then the last thing that I would do for this look is, what would I do? Oh, I still need to do my eyebrows because I said I would. All right, so I've got a couple things actually. So I am going to prime my lips as well with this Burt's Bees Watermelon Moisturizing Lip Balm. It might also have SPF in it. Does it? No, it does not. This is just a nice little moisturizer to lay underneath because I'm going to be doing a lip color in my next video. It's actually a lip color that is matte, so it's going to be really important to have a lot of moisture there. So it looks like my lighting has gone down quite a bit as the sun is setting. So I will go to my Maybelline Tattoo Studio brow tint pen, which makes these little lines. Oh, I did it. Yes, you can see them. There you go. These little lines. And I'm going to very gently fill in the general shape of my brow. I'm not going to go crazy right now and like fill in the entire thing. This is just to help set the basic shape while I'm filling in my eyeshadow. And because I always think that with a full like base coverage, it just looks so stark and so naked without something on the top. So I like to do the brows to kind of set that off a little bit. I wonder if you can hear all the people scraping snow outside. All right, so I've got 2 more steps and then this video will be done, and I will change up the lighting a little bit and switch to actually doing some eyeshadow. So the last 2 things that I will do are also part of the, oh no, where to go? Oh, the Sweet Dreams Too Faced Ancient Palette. And that is, I'm going to be using this sweet pink blush. But first I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting to go with the contouring that I just did. So I have this big fluffy brush. I actually have 2 big fluffy brushes just to see the comparison. I'm going to use this one to do the all over powder coverage. So I want to make sure that I use something that's a little bit tighter for that highlighter. All right, so, and just so you can see that, It's really nice. It's a very, very soft pink, a really, really sweet shimmer. Reminds me of icing. Oh, there's as per usual, a cat hair. So the highlighter you want to use to highlight all of the areas on your face that are the highest in elevation, if you're imagining where the light hits it. So where the light hits on my face would be up on my cheekbones, across my forehead, on my nose, and here on my chin. If there's an area of your face that you don't want to bring attention to, for instance, if you have a mole or your nose is bigger or smaller or whatever, don't highlight that area, or use the contouring more precisely to shape that to be more like what you would want, but only if it bothers you, of course. And then we're going to just very lightly pat that and sweep it up. Ooh, there's a lot of fallout from that. You can see it just adds this really soft kind of shimmer. Takes a little bit of the bite out of the matte there. Brings a little bit more life to my face, which is what I do like about contouring. It helps build the shape of my face a little bit nicer. Then I am gonna go and just do the tip of my nose. Little button nose, that's super cute. And then just a little bit. Again, I want my lips to look fuller, and I know that I can accomplish that with contouring, but usually it just makes it look like I'm growing a goatee, which is not my goal. So you can see that I did sweep just a little bit across the forehead. Now that may seem counterintuitive because this is my T-zone and it's very oily, but as the light hits my forehead, I do want it to have a little bit more of a glow just because it is very delicate and very pretty. All right, and then the last thing that we're going to do, I'm going to switch back to the brush that I used for contouring, and I'm going to brush all of the contour color out of there. And I mentioned that I'm not using a blush that I usually use, which I will show because it is my favorite. This is the NYX Sweet Cheeks Matte. I love this kind of bricky terracotta color. It has a lot of orange in it. It's much warmer than the one that I'm about to use, which is pink, very pink. And this is a matte one. So I just love this one, but not what I want to use for this look. So back to this ancient palette. I've got the brush cleaned off, mostly cleaned off. I'm going to pick up a healthy amount of this blush. As you can see, it has a ton of shimmer in it, just like the highlighter there. And I'm going to do a little circle and blend it out. Normally I do kind of a sweeping motion, but I really want to emphasize those rosy little cheeks. So I'm trying to pat it into a circle and then blend out from that. Get a little bit more. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I'm gonna put my nose ring back. Make sure that's blended. It's a little cakey under there, but just a little bit. All right, and then for the finishing touch, as if I weren't going to do all of my eyes, I would take this fluffy brush here, pick up some of that powder, and just very lightly go over everything for a really clean finish and to help cover up any areas where I may not have blended as well, or that may be a little crazy in the contouring department. All right, let's take a look. I'm very pleased. I think the contouring is really subtle. Contouring can get really crazy really fast, so I'm glad that this didn't get too out of control. And I could show you all what I am working with. Typically, these are the products that I've been using for a while. And hopefully I will now just be able to link this video and other videos. So again, thank you so much for joining me, and if you would like to see what I'm up to and what looks I'm doing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Oh yeah. But again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you on the next adventure. Bye!